We'll begin in child's pose. Toes together, knees wide. Rest your forehead on your mat. Reach your hands towards the front of your mat. Ujjayi breath in and out through your nose. Downward facing dog. Lift your hips, tuck your toes, press your hands down into the floor to lift your hips up to the ceiling. Work to get your arms straight so that your arms and your torso are in one long line. Your knees can be bent here to help you do that. Take a breath in and a breath out. Walk your feet forward, ragdoll. Hold on to opposite elbows. Let your head hang heavy. Release your arms. Bring your feet together. Mountain pose, reach up. Hands to prayer. 1 Om, inhale. Mountain pose, inhale. Fold forward, exhale. Halfway lift, inhale. High push-up, exhale. We're going to modify this first chaturanga. Take a breath in here. Bring your knees to the floor. Exhale as you bend your elbows. Upward facing dog. Press the tops of your feet into the floor. Straighten your arms. Try to lift your knees up off the floor. Downward facing dog. Tuck your toes. Send your hips up and back. Take 1 breath here. Exhale. Step your feet forward. Halfway lift on your inhale. Fold, exhale. Chair pose, 1 breath in. Fold forward, breathe out. Halfway lift, flat back. Lift your upper arm bones up to the ceiling. High to low push-up, chaturanga. It's another word for that. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Right foot forward. So I like to step my left foot forward a little bit so I can launch off of it. Step my right foot forward. Reach up. Bring your hands to the floor. Press your hands down into the floor as you step your right foot back. Lower down. Upward facing. Downward facing. Left foot forward. So first thing I do is ground my right foot so I can launch forward. Reach up, fill your lungs. Hands to the floor. Chaturanga. Upward facing. Downward facing. 1 breath. Big exhale. Feet together at the back of your mat. Lift your right leg up. We're going to come into flip dog. Remember, there's lots of bus stops you can get off at. Bend your lifted leg, peel open, lift your right knee to the ceiling. Stay here or keep moving your hip higher and higher, twisting your torso so eventually you come over into flip dog. Hug your shoulder blades together. Press your chest towards the ceiling. Reach your arm towards the front of the room. Unwind. And since our weight was just now on our left hand, we're going to switch our weight to our right hand for our side plank. And remember, you can drop your bottom knee here to help support your weight. Take another breath. Hands to the floor. Vinyasas. I'm going to do this one with my knees. Upward facing. You know, it's just important here to not jam into your low back in that transition there. Tuck your toes. Downward facing. Feet together. Lift your left leg. Bend. Peel. Stay or flip. Press your feet down. So my hips have turned, and now I'm starting to turn my chest open. Reach your hand towards the front of the room. Unwind, coming a little bit through a side plank as I switch into my full side plank on the opposite hand. Reach up. Hands to the floor. Vinyasa. Upward facing. Downward facing. Breathe in. Breathe out. Crescent lunge, right side. So for crescent lunge, the big difference between this and warrior one is that your back foot is up. So it's like I've got that Barbie high heel up on my back foot. Working to tuck your tailbone down towards the floor. So there's a pretty big stretch on the front of my left hip. Hands to prayer and twist. So you're working to get your elbow all the way over your knee. And of course, there's always options. So dropping your back knee. You can have more of an open twist where your left hand is on a block or on the floor. Reach up to the ceiling. From here, warrior two. Turn your back foot flat. And you're going to open up, opening your hips up now so that they're parallel to the long edge of your mat. Stretch your arms away from each other. And take a look at your big toe on the inside of your right knee. You should be able to see your big toe instead of collapsing your knee in. So press your knee out, engaging those outer glute muscles. Reverse your warrior, extended side angle. Now I forgot my block, so I'm going to use my elbow on my knee. Reach up to the ceiling. Take another breath. Hands to the floor. You can step back to downward facing dog or vinyasa. Left side, crescent lunge. Big step. This time I'm going to drop my back knee and untuck my back toes. This is actually how I usually practice this pose because I have tight hips. Press my hip forward towards my heel to help release these muscles across the front of my hip. Years of sitting at desks, sitting in cars, all of that, just running, have created very tight hip flexors for me. So this feels so good for me. Hands to prayer, twist. And with my hands still at prayer position, I can press my top hand down to help me lift my left shoulder. So this is a dumped shoulder. This is a lifted shoulder. Good. Warrior two. So I'm going to try to do it with no hands. Press down, straighten my leg, back foot flat, open my torso. Something to play with. Reverse. Extended side angle. I just noticed that I'm pressing into like the front of my foot more than I'm pressing into my heel. So I'm just bringing some awareness there. And now I'm grounding more into my heel than I am into my foot. And it's fired up all the muscles on the back side of my leg, all the way up into like my glutes. Yeah, and then same with the back leg. So pressing out, instead of dumping all my weight into the front leg, I'm creating some equal balance between the front and the back. Take another breath. Hands to the floor. Chaturanga, or skip straight to down dog, which is what I'm doing. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Top of your mat. Halfway lift. Fold forward. Chair pose. We're going to do these really quick. Twisting chair. Hands to prayer. Twist right. Take a breath. Back to center. Hands to prayer, twist left. Back to center. Fold forward. And this is where we do 2 forward folds. First, with the peace fingers. Wrap them around your big toes. Palms turn to face each other. so that your elbows can move out to the sides of the room. Press your toes down into your fingers and pull yourself down. Gorilla pose. Lift up. Slide your hands way under your feet. Take another breath. And then pull. So it's an active pose, an active pulling with your hands. By doing that, I'm engaging all of my pec muscles, my biceps, plus my hip flexors and my thighs to help pull myself deeper. All right, crow pose, everybody's favorite. So we talked a little bit last night about how in crow pose, a lot of people start with their hips high, but then when they want to get their hands flat, they lower their hips. So what we need to do is keep the hips high and get the hands flat. So there's a little bit of flexibility in the hamstrings needed to do that, a little bit of stretching in the upper body to get the hands flat. And if that's a challenge, you can always have a block up under your feet. Again, I forgot my block, so I'm going without it today. I keep looking forward. There's like a spot right out in front of my fingertips where I'm resting my drishti. From here, I'm gonna bend my elbows a tiny bit, and I'm up on my tiptoes. I don't think I could get my feet flat if I tried. And I bend my elbows just enough so that I can like play around with scooping my triceps under my knees. Once I've scooped, then I start to lean. And as I lean, I might find that I need to move my hands back to get some really good balance. Pressing into my fingertips to help press down into the floor. And when I find a little bit of balance, keep pressing down into my hands. Maybe one foot comes up off the floor, maybe the other one, maybe both at the same time. Keep pressing the floor away from you like you're trying to push the whole planet away. Good, come down. Shake it out. Shoo. Let's just go down to down dog after that. Take a nice deep breath. Let it go. Come to the top of your mat. Halfway lift. Fold forward. Rise all the way up for mountain. And we're gonna cruise through some balancing poses really quickly. I'm gonna turn to face you guys. So eagle pose, right arm under. And we're crossing the forearms towards each other, eventually hooking elbows or wrists. And then squat down into a little chair. Lift your right leg up. And just like the Karate Kid, the crane kick, you keep lifting your knee up high. And then there's a hugging in, a crossing over. So you hug your thighs into each other, and then you lay your thigh down, your hamstring down on top of your other thigh. Your foot can just be hanging out here by the side, or it can start to twist all the way around and wrap behind your calf. Good, now that we're there, we are gonna come right back out. Left arm under. Squat. Left leg up and over. Hug in to center line. In all these balancing poses, drishti is very important. Mountain pose. Standing leg raise. I'm gonna hold on to my left hip, reach my right hand out, and you can either hold on to your right knee or reach down for your right big toe. So if you're holding onto your knee, press down and stand tall. And then move into the B position of this pose, which is opening your leg to the right. And then you challenge your drishti and your balance by turning your head and looking the opposite way of your knee. Come back to the center. Reach your fingers to the ceiling. Straighten your right leg. Airplane pose. I'm gonna pivot because I'm gonna kick the wall if I don't. Reach your foot back, reach your fingers back. I just got a little wobbly because I saw somebody walking down the street out by Heine Brothers. And it's just such a great reminder that having your gaze on something that's moving is only gonna make you wobble. So look at something steady, something still. hands to prayer, half moon. And this is another one where a block comes in very handy to lengthen your hand towards the floor. I can reach the floor okay here, and since I forgot my block, I'm gonna go with it. And once again, I'm wobbly because I'm looking at my reflection in the camera instead of one spot on the ceiling. Take another breath, fold forward. Come all the way up. I'm gonna do standing leg raise this time without facing you guys. Left knee in my left hand. Just press down into your standing foot. Lengthen the crown of your head towards the ceiling. Now move to B position. Open your knee to the left. And you're working to keep both hips parallel to the mat. So instead of hiking my hip up really high, I'm going to try to keep it steady, even though it's actually more work and doesn't look like my hip is going as high. Switch your gaze. Come back to the center. Fingertips to the ceiling. Straighten your left toes up towards the ceiling. Airplane. Right leg is straight and strong. Not locked out, little softness in the knee. And that gives you a little bit of ability to like ebb and flow. Hands to prayer. Half moon. Similar to the way you peel open in flip dog. You're peeling your left hip up towards the ceiling, stacking on top of your right hip. Take your right hand down to the floor, or more likely your block. And the distance between your toes and your block would be roughly the same distance as your hip to your armpit. Having your block a little bit to the outside of your foot will just help you create some balance, because if it's right in line with your toes, you're going to be on that tightrope. So have your hand or your hand out to the side. Stack your left hip up. Active toes on both feet. Reach up and fold forward. We're going to do a quick little dancer's pose. Catch your hand, your ankle. So we take our hand out to the side like we're carrying a tray of pizzas. And then you're going to reach back and catch the ankle on the inside. So you guys can see I call it your elbow pit, facing out towards you. Start by reaching up to the ceiling. Kick your foot back. Stretch your chest forward. And then switch sides. It's almost never that quick in a class, just to warn you. It's the same thing, catch the ankle on the inside. And so you'll notice that like I tilt my chest forward, and at the same time my leg lifts. So I'm a little teapot. You know, the handle lifts, and I'm pouring out my fingertips. You know, starting to press your foot up towards the ceiling. Release. Tree pose. I'll do this one facing you guys as well. So we talked about having a couple different places you can put your foot. Kickstand, calf. I like the calf because it's almost like my calf fits inside my arch really nicely, like they were made for each other. Or we're going to skip the knee. It's not a safe place to keep your foot. Or all the way up into your thigh. I have to use my hand to place it into my thigh. And there's nothing wrong with that. Press your foot into your thigh. Press your hands into each other. And there's a lot of options with your hands. You can keep your hands here. You can reach your arms to the ceiling. You can take a little bind behind you. Lift your chest. Switch sides. Hands to prayer. Get grounded. Get centered. Release. Come to the top of your mat, mountain pose. Fold forward. Halfway lift. Chaturanga. Upward facing. Downward facing. Right side warrior 1. Warrior 2. Reverse. Triangle. Straighten your right leg. You can kind of hinge forward, like reaching out through your right hand. And then when you can't reach anymore, you change your arms. You take your hand to a block by your right foot or all the way to the floor. Come all the way up to standing. Turn your right foot in, hands to your hips, hinge at the hips. Bring your hands flat to the floor. If you cannot get your hands flat to the floor, walk your feet out a little wider, or turn your toes in towards each other, a little pigeon toe. Help you release your hamstrings and release your low back. Come all the way up to standing. Pyramid pose. Right foot's pointing at 12 o'clock. I'm going to take a big step in, and my left foot is now pointing at 10 o'clock. We're going to take a bind. I'm going to do reverse fist bump. So press your hands into each other like you're fist bumping yourself. Draw your shoulders back and start to hinge forward. So you're going to have to keep a little bit of a straight back here to be able to keep your bind in place. Press into your feet. And then keep your legs right where they are. Your left hand is going to come to the block or to the floor under your left shoulder. And you're going to revolve your chest open to the right. Reach up. Hands to the floor. We're going to move to the other side, so optional vinyasa. I'm going to choose to skip it and go straight to down dog. Left side, warrior one. Rise up. Warrior two. Reverse. Triangle. Straight legs. Hinge forward. So there's like a little jut, like a little sassy hip that happens there. A little sassy hip, reach down and open up. Take a breath. Let it go. Come all the way up. Left foot in. This time we're going to interlace our hands. So now I'm clasping my hands like so behind my back. Interlacing all of my fingers, drawing my palms together, opening my chest, and then hinge forward. You'll be able to see my arms as I come up and over. Breathe. Let your arms hang heavy. It's an intense stretch for the fronts of the shoulders. Come all the way up. Pyramid pose. Left foot at 12 o'clock. Step your back foot in, and your right foot is now at 2 o'clock. Reverse fist bump. Fold. Deep breath. Twisting triangle. Take your right hand down and twist. You'll feel this probably on the outside of your left hip. It's a big stretch for your IT band over here on the opposite side. Take another breath. Hands to the floor. Vinyasa. Upward facing. Downward facing. We're going to cruise through our back bends. So from here, locust pose. On your belly. Same clasp we just did. Draw your shoulders up, away from the floor. Lift your legs away from the floor. I like to point my feet here. You can also do what's called a floint, where your feet are flexed. Or I'm sorry, your feet are pointed, but your toes are flexed. Lift up a little higher and release. We're going to do one floor bow. Bend your knees. Reach back for your ankles. Activate your feet, and then kick your feet back to lift your chest. Take another breath and release. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Camel pose. We are moving very quickly, so just try to maintain some breath. You're going to take your hands to your low back. Draw your shoulders back. Remember, if your toes are tucked under, it means that your heels are higher away from the floor, so they're a little bit closer. If your toes are untucked, it means that your foot's just a little further away. So it's kind of your choice. I like to have my toes untucked because it feels better on my knees. So scoop your tailbone down. Squeeze all the muscles across the backs of your legs. Lift your chest. Roll your shoulders back and down.
You can stay here with your hands on your low back, or take one hand to one foot, your other hand to your other foot, re-engage your shoulders, press your chest up, come all the way up. We're almost finished. Class is almost going to start soon, so I need to wrap it up. Come onto your backs. One bridge pose. My knees are over my ankles. Press your back into the floor and press your feet into the floor. Now squeeze the entire backside of your body. So not only am I pressing my feet down, I'm also pressing my arms down to help me lift my chest away from the floor. Lower down. You can do one more bridge pose. A lot of times we do several, usually at least 3, oftentimes 6, sometimes even more than that, of these back bends. So that was 1. So you can either repeat bridge pose, which I highly recommend to really build strength in the backs of your legs and to stretch and open the front of your hips. If you're feeling ready, and you're pretty warm, take your hands behind you, elbows up, fingertips pointing towards your own feet. Press your feet down, press your hands down. You can start by coming to the top of your head, and then you're gonna press your hands straight, your hands down, straighten your arms as much as you can. This is wheel pose. The peak of the mountain. To come down, tuck your chin, gently lower yourself down. And when we're complete with our back bends, we usually high five other people, yeah. And then, Supta Baddha Konasana. Supta means reclined, Baddha means bound, and Konasana means angle pose. So for that pose, that's a Sanskrit word where your feet are together, knees are dropping open. Happy baby. Bring your knees into your chest. Grab a hold of the outsides of your feet. Draw your knees down. Lengthen your back along the floor. Bring your knees in. Rock forward and back. Come up to seated. We are complete. Until next time, namaste.